And yes, and welcome to tonight's event with Patrizia Pietroniro, who will lead us into the third chapter of this third, let's say, leg of this journey into Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. But before we start our tour there, let me also remind you that on July the 6th, Thursday, it will be July the 6th, Wednesday. I think it's a Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. We'll have this beautiful celebration of Italian summer with events both in English and in Italian. We'll talk about very different and interesting topics concerning Italian culture and traditions. For example, the rice fields and the best kept secrets about rice varieties and how to make the best risotto with them. Or we'll talk about Italian frescoes, the art of Italian frescoes, the exotic flora of Sicily, and also about Florence in the 60s, recounted by a young Canadian who was a young Canadian then, who visited the city and also was a student of Italian. So it will be nice to, because then he has also been back to Florence nowadays. So it will be interesting to see the comparison between Florence in the 60s and Florence nowadays. So without much further ado, let me leave the podium to Patrizia, and also let me remind you that the fourth leg of this journey will be on June 29th. So I stop sharing here and I leave it to you, Patrizia.
Thank you. Okay, good. So, good evening. Thank you, Arianna, for your introduction, and many thanks to all participants to be here this evening, despite the warm/hot temperatures of these days, at least here in Vancouver. I appreciate your great interest for this hidden Italian corner, Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. Maybe not so hidden anymore after our two webinars. So let's continue our journey in the region, in the city of Gorizia, along the border with Slovenia. So we can say that it's official, Gorizia in Italy and Nova Gorica in Slovenia will be the 2025 European Capital of Culture. This is a very important title for both cities. For the first time, the capital of culture will be stretched across two countries. It's a great opportunity for the development of this area in terms of tourism, financial resources, culture, and jobs, of course. In 2025, all attention will be focused on the whole region, Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. It's a unique chance to show itself in the world. It's a peculiar mix of Italian, Austrian, and Slovenian history. So for that occasion, hundreds of cultural events have been planned, and more than 60 projects as a result of a cross-border cooperation between the two countries, the two cities. A huge interest for the cultural, gastronomical, and social aspects of this area is also demonstrated by many great filmmakers who have chosen these wonderful locations for their movies. For example, I remember La Grande Guerra, the Great War, with two famous Italian actors, Marcello Mastroianni and Alberto Sordi. So let's move on, and we can have a look to our agenda. Of course, we will talk about Gorizia, which was called the Nice of the Adriatic for the warm climate of the city, the medieval castle, the history concerning the Great War, because Gorizia faced two conflicts, two huge conflicts. We will talk about the natural environment that we have here in this area, which is the karst. In Italian, we say carso. And of course, we talk about the First World War, the trenches, which is a symbol of the Great War, and the huge, massive monuments like Re di Puglia, which is the largest war memorial in Italy. Gorizia is called also the Berlin of Italy because for a long time, for about 40 years, it was divided by a wall in two parts. And but we will talk also about a world folk festival that every year is hosted in the city at the end of August. Of course, not now for the pandemic, but it will restart again probably next year. And we'll talk about the Collio, the white wine heaven that we have here in the surroundings of the city. And last but not least, we go to the coastline with Grado, which is called the mother of Venice. So Venezia Giulia includes the province of Gorizia and Trieste, as you can see in this map, an area with a complete different history from Friuli. The two cities belonged to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire for many centuries, until 1918, until the end of the First World War. The fascinating city of Gorizia is in the southeast of the region, bordering with Slovenia and the Adriatic Sea, surrounded by lovely hills and crossed by the amazing Isonzo River that I can show you later in a video. It is a very complex history, facing two world wars and the division of this city, Gorizia, on one side in Italy and Nova Gorica in Slovenia on the other side. However, it is also the land of outstanding wines and a wonderful coastline, as I mentioned before. So, Gorizia, the niece of the Adriatic. Since the beginning of the 19th century, the Austrian upper class loved to stroll through the streets of the town. It is not a surprise that it was called the Austrian niece or the niece of the Adriatic for the beauty of the landscape and the mild climate that we have here. It was a welcoming center for the Austrian retired noblemen. This was the time when the city was trying to become a tourist destination for aristocrats, for aristocracy, by promoting the creation of parks, hotels, coffee houses, and other shops we can say in a Middle European and multi-ethnic atmosphere. Even if we should say that this atmosphere only few years later was swept away by the destruction of the Great War. Anyway, despite the transformations that followed the First World War, the city maintains, preserves many green areas to which have been added in the last years new parks and playgrounds. Also, there is a long history of the Jewish community. We can see here also in one of those pictures the synagogue, which had a strong economic role when the Austrian Emperor Joseph II abolished the ghetto and all forms of discrimination. So Jewish were allowed in the city to enroll at university and do any kind of work instead of carrying on only some specific activities, as it was in other cities, for example, in Venice or in other, but not only in Italy, in Europe in general. So we can really say that Gorizia was a multi-ethnic town. Italian, Venetian, Slovene, Friulian, and German were all languages spoken in the city center at that time. It was really a cosmopolitan center, despite it is a small city. Let me show you a video about, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the city center and the castle, the medieval castle. As you can see in the picture, is high above the city. The castle lies up on a hill overlooking the two sides of the town. There is Gorizia in Italy on one side and Nova Gorica on the other. You can have a great view from the massive walls of the castle, of the ancient building, and you can also admire the hills of the Collio. Collio is the name of the prime wine region, and on the top of the hill you can also see very well the huge memorials of the Great War. Inside this ancient building, there are interesting artifacts of the medieval ages. Some rooms also displaying early musical instruments. You can visit the jail cells, the castle kitchen, and the foodstuff warehouses. For the history lovers, worth every minute spent there, a very medieval feeling inside. From the 11th century, Gorizia was the seat of an independent county until it passed to Austria in the 16th century. There are many museums worth visiting, such as the First World War Museum or the Museum of Fashion. And there are also many pleasant opportunities and spaces in which to do everything from hiking and cycling or riding along the Isonzo Valley, the hills of the Collio, and amazing vineyards and also small ancient villages. So let me show you this video. Yeah. And now let's talk about the Great War. Yeah, the Great War, because Gorizia was not on the front line during the first 10 months of the Great War. But after some time, it was involved. As soon as Italy entered the war in May 1915, Gorizia found itself in the center of one of the largest battlefields, the strong conflict between Italy and the Austrian-Hungarian armies. So now we are going to discover one of the most important pages of our 20th century. It was one of the most tragic episodes in the whole history of the mankind. Millions of people were involved. The reasons for that, it was an explosion of all the tensions that had been accumulating over the years in Europe. There was also political and economic competition among three countries, England, France, and Germany. At first, Italy was, we can say in Italian, uno spettatore interessato, an interested spectator, economically less developed compared to the other countries. And the idea to join the war began to gain support on the newspapers, on the Italian newspapers, and during public meetings in order to convince the Italian population that the war was a good occasion to become a powerful state, a powerful country. The hope that this would be only a short conflict disappeared after only few weeks when several kilometers of trenches were excavated. So let's see now these two maps before and after the war, the First World War. There was an underground political movement working for unification of some territories with Italy. It put forward some important territorial requests, such as Trentino and Venezia Giulia. So Venezia Giulia refers to Gorizia and Trieste. At the end of the war, these territories were occupied by Italian troops again, who introduced their own civil administration and became officially part of Italy. If you look at the map on the right, after the war, Italy obtained much more. Other territories, such as the Istrian Peninsula, were annexed. During the fascist regime, there was a process called Italianization to spread the Italian culture and identity in these conquered territories. All Slavic organizations were closed. The Slovene language was forbidden. The street names were dedicated to famous Italian personalities. Newspapers were allowed only in Italian, and several examples of fascist architecture were built everywhere. So few Slovene-speaking writers decided to remain, decided to stay, and those few who did were persecuted by the fascism. Many Slovenes decided to emigrate to South America and especially to Argentina. In order to understand the development of this war, we should talk about the natural environment. In the past, the main vegetation on this area was oaks, but these were replaced by pine forest in the 19th and 20th century. So forests now recover only 1/3 of the karst, and starting in the Middle Ages, the plateau, il Carso, suffered radical deforestation for economic reasons. Although much of the wood for the spaced piles, you know, the piles that support the island of Venice came from this region. Venice also managed these forests, the karst forests, as a reserve for naval timber, to use the wood to build the ships in Venice. But the huge deforestation occurred in the mid-19th century due to clear cutting by local farmers, and in order to convert this land for pastures for sheep. So karst is an area of land made up of limestone, and limestone, also known as chalk, is a soft rock that dissolves in water. As rainwater seeps into the rock, it slowly erodes. Karst landscapes can be worn away from the top or dissolved from a weak point inside the rock. This is why there are many caves, underground streams, and sinkholes on the surface. Where erosion has worn away the land above ground, you can see steep rocky cliffs. So if you visit the karst area, there are many traces of the First World War. And you can see the trenches, you can visit them, and you can understand the life of the soldiers the life of the soldiers in this challenging environment, which was extremely difficult. Difficult because of diseases, lack of potable water, frequent rain, wounds, and of course lack of medication. So here in the pictures you can see the one of the trenches that you can find in this area. And yeah, it's a long corridor. It's a long corridor, as you can see, less than 2 meters deep. But the first question is, why so many soldiers died during the Great War? So as I mentioned before, medicine and treatment of disease were not adequate. Antibiotics had not yet been invented. We should wait for the antibiotics. We should wait the Second World War. The Americans brought those kind of medicines in Europe. So the real main reason was the introduction of new weapons of mass destruction. You can see here in this picture, this is the Schwarzlose. Schwarzlose is a machine gun with 600 rounds per minute. They were very, very powerful weapons, and the soldiers were not they were not prepared for this kind of attacks. And then other kind of attacks with gases. They use also chemical attacks, hand grenades. They use the airplanes for the first time. So no new military strategies to cope with this, with these kind of innovations. Through the original walkway, you can move along the trench. And interesting is you can see in the picture, the elbow rest used by the soldiers to shoot more precisely, and which is still visible in parts of the trenches. The Italian soldiers were not ready for this war because of lack of winter equipment, hand grenades, means of transport, machine guns, lack of military officers that were well trained, well prepared. So the karst was the theater for huge battles during the First World War. But they built, even if you can see this rocky environment, the soldiers built communication tunnels, trenches, and a lot of fortified areas. So if you go today, all these events can be discovered thanks to open air museums and war itineraries, with interesting walks to understand the soldiers' life and experiences. Like more than 1 century ago, we can walk along the trenches, explore the military buildings, and see the battlefields. A fascinating trip in the past, which continues with the visit of the massive memorials of this conflict. So visitors can still observe the concrete bases, the corridors, and the rooms used by the troops who lived in the trenches for weeks or months. You should imagine that about 65,000 workers worked for a long time along this track to build trenches and defensive outposts, roads, or tunnels. But all these extensive works were lost in only a few days. In October 1917, with the defeat of Caporetto, or Kobarid, because now it's in Slovenia, so it has a Slovene name, but for Italians, this battle is famous with the name of Caporetto, la disfatta di Caporetto, when the Italian troops were forced to withdraw for 100 kilometers. Yeah. So the first battles of the Isonzo did not achieve the results that were expected and had revealed the lack of preparations by the Italian army to take part in a war based on positional warfare, and that would not last a short time. After the Italians took Gorizia in August 1916, Austrian troops continued to bomb the city, and at the end of 28 months of war, the city was devastated. Only a few buildings survived the war intact. As you can see, the town itself was seriously damaged, and most of its inhabitants had been evacuated by early 1916. With the Battle of Caporetto in October 1917, the Austrians, helped by the Germans, pushed the Italians back to the Veneto region, and the town returned under the Austrian control. Yeah. And now you can see Re di Puglia. Re di Puglia is Italy's largest memorial dedicated to the soldiers who fell in the Great War. It was opened in September 1938 after 10 years of construction and inaugurated by Benito Mussolini. The Duce, the leader of the Italian fascism for 20 years. 1938 was also the year of the first agreements with Hitler and the racial laws against the Jewish. And so it means that a new great war started to be planned. So the message of this imposing massive monuments to the visitors was, be ready to a new conflict and be ready to sacrifice your life for Italy again. Re di Puglia accommodates the remains of 100,000 soldiers who died in battle in the surrounding areas. As you can see, it is disposed, it is displayed on 3 levels, representing it's like an army descending from the sky. An army led by its commander and generals. We can say that this is the representation of the Italian Third Army, ready to fight against its enemy. There is also, if you go there, if you visit Re di Puglia, you can also visit an interesting museum with plenty of artifacts, objects, weapons found in the battleground, and including a mock-up of a trench line complete with barbed wire. Yeah, Re di Puglia is for sure Europe's most impressive war memorial, evocative but not bombastic. It takes up, as you can see here, it takes up a whole hillside. We can see in details the majestic tomb with red marble of the commander of the Third Army. The commander was Emanuele Filiberto, Duke of Aosta. He didn't die during the war, but he had expressed his wish, his willing to be buried here with his soldiers, and behind him the tombs of his 5 generals in the granite tombs. Yeah, behind them you can see 22 large steps rise containing the remains of 40,000 identified soldiers in alphabetical order. On each step, you can read the word presente, present, repeated hundreds of times. The word presente has a double meaning. It means that all the soldiers are present in our memories, but on the other side also the word means the word present is used by the soldier when he replies saying that I'm ready to fight. You know, this is the message that those kind of monuments wanted to give to the visitors. So this war memorial is truly outstanding, touching. Most of them were young boys on both sides fighting each other. So it's really a breathtaking event to visit this place, and visitors are really impressed and meditate how illogical was such a war in which civilized nations sent so many young people to death. And then Gorizia had to face the second war, the Berlin of Italy. After this second conflict, the area of Gorizia was conquered by partisans. And in 1947, most of the territory was annexed to Yugoslavia, while a smaller part, including the city, was annexed to Italy. Though a border city, Gorizia was only in part crossed by the border with Yugoslavia. Some important old buildings once belonging to Gorizia were included in the Yugoslav territory. So these include, for example, the old railway station of the Transalpina. Transalpina was a line that connected Trieste to Villach, to Austria, as well as the town landmarks, the main sites of the city. So although the situation in Gorizia was often compared with that of Berlin during the Cold War, Italy and Yugoslavia had good relations regarding Gorizia. So these included cultural and sporting events, for example, that favored the spirit of a cohesion, of a coexistence that remained in place after Yugoslavia broke up in 1991. So I want to show you a video how it how it was. It's a old video, but very interesting. It's not well done. Anyway, interesting to see the division physically. You can see the you can say in brackets the wall, even if it's not Yeah, and this is the Transalpina Square. On this map, you can see here the division of the city in 1947. And on this side, we have the Italian part, where is the castle, the downtown, we can say the ancient center. And on the new part is Nova Gorica, which is we can say a new city. In these two pictures, you can see the first one is an old picture which reminds us the communist period, the communist time. You can see the symbol of the star at the top on the roof of the rail station. This is the rail station of the Transalpina. And the same building, of course, restored after 2004. 2004 is the year when Slovenia entered in the European community. So you don't see the division, the physical division anymore between the two parts.
Everything was born here in 1906, when this train station was created by hands of Austrian Empire in a pretty city of East Italy. Different cultures, Italians, Germans and Slovenian, were living peacefully. But in year 1915, the First World War ravaged this territory and the Austrian troops were defeated after bloody 12 battles. Almost 1 million of humans died and the city devastated. Although with a huge sacrifice, Italians conquered again this square. Some years later, military uniforms were again marching here. Another world war was spreading its terror with new bombs and deportations toward concentration camps. However, democracy always overbears against any dictatorship. Partisans and overseas soldiers brought again the freedom in this defaced land. Allied troops and Yugoslavian army controlled this territory for other 2 years. After the end of war, a border was traced in the city, and it split this square in 2 countries. It was the beginning of Cold War. People, always used to live together, was definitely separated and often moved away from their families. A wall was built here and military troops were deployed for controlling each other. The wall finally collapsed in year 2004, but another war in year 2020, not made by traditional weapons, kept people away. However, this last challenge will be for sure defeated, and all people will soon honor this wonderful symbol of freedom and harmony among cultures. They are inspired by local talents in philosophy and music, architecture, engineering, the art of politics, and physics. Memories of needless devastations and sacrifices, lived personally or passed on by families, had forged their passions and studies. That's the borderless square. Traditions and languages are different among countries. However, culture is universal and borderless, as this square. It's not only the cultivation of our mind. Culture is also a bridge toward freedom and democracy. It is a cradle and a shelter that protect us against any war and discrimination. A long path of human evolution, and in our future, we will tackle new military conflicts and diseases, but in any hard times, principles of our fathers and memories of their sacrifices, here, they will be always firmly guarded as our heritage. That's the borderless square.
Yeah. Now, yeah, it's a very touching video, but also very relevant to understand what happened from the First World War up to now. And as you can see, Slovenia's entry in the European Union in 2004, good relations between the two countries. So it means that you can, in the city, you can breathe the suspended atmosphere, which is typical of a border city. In the Piazza Transalpina, which until 2004 was physically divided by a wall, you will walk with one foot in Italy and one foot in Slovenia, something amazing. Thanks to its special geographic location, it has always been influenced by a combination of different civilizations, Latin, Slavic, and Germanic all together. So situated on the eastern border, it has always played an important role in Central Europe. The square now is a urban open space in common between the two countries. It's a symbolic, it has a symbolic value representing the coexistence of two cities and the overcoming of conflicts, not only between two countries, but also between two opposite worlds. We can just mention the famous Iron Curtain and the Cold War. I personally saw the demolition of the small wall on the square and the celebrations for the end of the border and Slovenia's entry in the European Union, May the 1st in 2004. The title European Capital of Culture is a great opportunity to learn more about the history of the two cities. They are both ready to prepare many activities and projects with a strong European spirit, European dimension that for sure will attract visitors from the whole country, from not only Italy, but also from Europe, and will be a positive message for many border areas in the world where there are conflicts and wars also nowadays. So we can, Arianna, we can have a break for questions or
yes, I just
comment?
needed to unmute myself. Yes, there are already some questions, and please feel free either to write in the chat or to unmute yourself and just ask directly the question. In the meantime, I will start reading the questions that have already been sent via the chat. The first question was, why is it called King of Puglia? Although Renzo already answered, not named after King of Puglia. The complete town name is Fogliano Re di Puglia. I don't know whether you want to add anything else to that.
They are very well prepared. Yes, it's Fogliano Re di Puglia, but actually the origin of the name, it comes from a Slavic word, radipec, which means hill, simply hill. As you can see, it's the natural environment where the monument was built on the hillside. Yeah. This is, but yeah, the question, you know, many visitors ask me all the time, because it seems that it comes from the King of Puglia. Yeah.
Yes. The second question is, by Margaret Rudolph, can someone tell me if there were attempts to escape communist Slovenia into Italy, thinking of East and West Berlin? Because the wall looks more like a fence, unlike the Berlin Wall, which was a real wall in that case.
Yeah, they tried, of course, but it was, of course, very, very dangerous, because all that line was controlled 24 hours. But I would like to say that in the last 20 years, many inhabitants of both parts received a special permit, you know, to cross the border. For example, if they were businessmen or farmers, and in order to sell their products and to continue the trades, you know, they receive special, yeah.
Are there any other questions that you'd like to ask directly to Patrizia? Please feel free to unmute yourselves if you have. I have a question if no one else has questions. It regards, Patrizia, what you were talking about, the fact that the emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire abolished the Jewish ghetto. I didn't really get the date, exactly the year when this happened. And I was wondering whether it was after the French Revolution, after the Napoleonic War, so after the Restoration, or before that.
It happened during the 18th century. Exactly, it was 1748, I think, something like this.
So it was before the French Revolution, yes.
And the Empress Maria Theresa, the Austrian Empress, continued this kind of policy to give freedom not only to the Jewish community, but also to other, to all the religious communities. Actually, it has been done in order to promote the commerce, the trades, you know, and yeah, it was not actually a very religious reason to do that, but economically, especially economic.
So there was not any idealistic.
In order to attract, a lot of traders, you know, from other religions in Gorizia and Trieste as well. Trieste was the only port of the Austrian Empire.
Yes, because it's with the Napoleonic Wars. So Napoleon Bonaparte was the one who abolished the ghettos throughout Europe. But then, after the Battle of Waterloo and after his exile, and after the Restoration, the Jewish ghettos were reinstated throughout Europe. Yes, and so that was although it was because it had economic reasons, not ideological reasons, but it was very advanced compared to other countries.
And we will see the next time, especially in Trieste, if you think that a city with about 200,000 people, so it's not a big city, Trieste, anyway, it's very cosmopolitan also nowadays, because it has 17 churches that are not Catholic. Something really impressive. Yeah,
absolutely. So there are also the Orthodox, the Christian Orthodox from the former ancient Roman Empire in Greece, so the Eastern Roman empires, and so that kind of tradition is still there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so, go ahead.
Sorry, it's Margaret again. I don't want to dominate with my questions, but I find this interesting because I live in Trieste every year for quite a few months, and I have origins there. And I've always puzzled about the Re di Puglia. Now, just to confirm, you think it's a translation of the Slavic word for hilltop? Because it is such a direct translation of King of Puglia. So I'm just wondering if you have to add. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's the Italianization of a Slavic word. Yeah, it's a translation, in Italian from this Slovene word. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
So thank you, Patrizia. If there are no more questions, you can go ahead with the second part of your presentation.
Sure. Thank you. The second part we'll talk about wine. Very special white wine with the Collio. But before that, I would like just to spend a few words and remind this great event that for the pandemic this year and last year was canceled, but we hope hopefully it will restart from next year. It's called the World Folk Festival. It's in Gorizia, and it takes place entirely in the city for 3 days in the city center. And you can enjoy these musical ensembles and the folk groups coming from all over the world. It's really an amazing event. Yeah. So let's talk about wine. Yeah. And yes, we can say that the best wine comes from the hills. The best wine comes from the hills. You might like to explore maybe some native plants. In Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, we have this stock wine, which is produced from 26 different grape varieties. You can imagine half of them are native varieties, which means they have their origin in the region. Anish is a sweet wine from Piccolite and Ramandolo. And we have also red varieties like Refosco, Cabernet, Merlot, Pinot, but the most famous ones are the white wines, especially the Friulano. It's called Friulano, Ribolla, and Malvasia. These 3 wines are native indigenous plants. So Collio is a beautiful hilly area that partially rolls into nearby Slovenia between the Julian Alps and the Adriatic Sea. It is a small but mixed and fascinating area, producing, we can say, some of the best worldwide known white wines. The name Collio is taken from the Italian word colli, which means hillsides, and describes the soil of this area. Peculiar landscape is the Collio, land of outstanding white wines. It is a series of hills covered by vines. You can follow the Strada del Vino e Ciliegia, the wine and cherries root in the area, with stopovers at farms or orchards, vineyards, and wineries for tasting and drinking. It's amazing. Over 85% of the production is in white wine grape varieties. Wine has been produced here since ancient times. The cold eastern winds meet the warmness of the Adriatic Sea, and the soil consists of marl, lime rock. It's a lime rock mixed with sandstone, and it's called polka. This is another Slavic name that offers minerals and salinity to the wines. So these conditions provide a fast maturation of the wine and offer complex and extremely elegant white wines. I would like just to remind you that ancient Greek writers had already mentioned wines which grew in this area, and a famous Roman statesman mentioned in a letter that Veneto, Gorizia, and Istria were well blessed regarding the cultivation, the conditions, you know, for the good conditions for the cultivation of the vines here. So you might like to explore 3 top native grapes. Even the ordinary Tokai Friulano is terrific with its taste of pear, herbs, peach, and citrus, and can be enjoyed with various dishes. The second one is the Ribolla Gialla. Is made 100% from the grape bearing the same name, and the result is a straw yellow wine with a fresh taste, enjoyed either with fish or as an aperitif. The last one is Picolite. It's a special sweet wine with flavors of figs and minerals, and goes perfectly with pastries, aged cheeses, or just alone as vino da meditazione, no? Meditation wine. Picolite has a limited production. It's quite expensive, 50-60 euros for a bottle. It's very difficult also to find. If you find it, you're lucky. It is also called the king's wine, as many European royal families enjoyed it in the last centuries. They used to buy the Picolite to have it on the royal tables. If you go to Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, do not miss the great experience to taste these indigenous native wines, at least one of them. Yeah. So Collio enjoys a mild climate with summers that are not hot, that are hot but not stifling, and winters that are cold and often rainy. There is an excellent diurnal temperature variation. This means warm, sunny days, which help bring the grapes to optimal ripeness, and we have cool, fresh nights to help them retain their acidity. Thanks to the warm winds from the Adriatic Sea, grapes are kept dry, and the mountains to the north protect the region from cold winds. So the environment is excellent for this kind of production. Family-owned boutique wineries. Yeah, unlike most other wine zones in Italy, the reputation of Collio for top white wines has been built by small producers who have shown that it is possible to produce world-class white wine from almost unknown local grapes. as well as from international varieties. Some winemakers include German wine making techniques like cold fermentation to white wine production. So today the winemaking on the region is very technologically advanced, with refrigerated fermentation tanks, modern wine presses, and so on, in order to maximize the fresh fruit and the characteristics of the grapes. So these specific production methods help create a style of wine found nowhere else in Italy, and I would like to say in the world. The Collio experience is a highlight with its stunning wines, traditional food, historical elements. But people, of course, are of great importance to the story. Each is proud to be from Collio, like the family I would like to present in this video, historical winemakers able to join tradition and modernity. In many ways, these wines and their winemakers were and still are trendsetters in the rebirth of Italian wines as quality wines on the international scene. This video is related to an historical family. They are Yerman. I don't want to advertise any brand, but I choose this video because you can understand the high levels of production they have. They have a very long history as winemakers.
Yerman, a history of passion coming through the ages. The founder Anton Yerman left Burgenland, the wine region in Austria, for the vines of Slovenia, and eventually laid his roots in Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. The year was 1881. Today, Yerman is an estate of 130 hectares of vineyard, constantly communicating with the rest of the world. The main focus is always on the definitive actions that will make a one-of-a-kind wine. The soil is light and fresh, temperatures aren't too warm, and the nights are cool, so the aromas and perfumes don't dissipate from the grapes and go directly from the bunch to the wine. There is a strong bond between the Yerman family, their brand image, and their vinification style. Yerman represents a deeply artistic way of living and creating. Silvio Yerman is the one who inspired this philosophy, since the 70s, taking the business to the top, first in Italy and then all over the world. Opposite, but complementary to the artistic genius of Silvio, stands the sense of tradition and knowledge of the father, Angelo Yerman.
Speriamo che l'azienda vada
avanti bene,
perché il nostro mercato non è un mercato nazionale oppure regionale come che avevo io, è mondiale.
Technological innovation and architectural tradition are beautifully integrated in the new winery of Rutaz. The large barrels create a magic atmosphere, oak being the same material that was used 50 years ago, the same passion being passed through, generation after generation. When beautiful vineyards and grapes are grown with constant attention and care, it becomes easy to make a good wine. Capo Martino represents tradition. It's made of a blend of 4 indigenous grapes: Tokai, Malvasia, Ribola and Piccolit. All of them are very ancient varieties, and they carry with them the value of their history. Dreams is a Chardonnay wine with a peculiar history. Born from the melody of a famous U2 song, Where the Streets Have No Name, Silvio Yerman was listening to this song when he created this wine, first naming it Where the Dreams Have No End, and then later simply Dreams. Dreams reflects the artistic sensibility of its creator and testifies a unique style, an idea of a wine that can make you dream every day. Vintage Tunina is the wine responsible for the company's success, more than any other. Its adventure began in 1975 when Silvio Yerman decided to vinify an ancient vineyard in a modern way. The grape varieties Chardonnay, Sauvignon, Malvasia, Ribola and Piccolit were planted, harvested and vinified together, with a low temperature fermentation in stainless steel in order to keep the freshness of the varieties. Vintage Tunina is an elegant masterpiece, inspired by the beauty of women. The name is an homage to the old owner of the land where the vineyard was planted, and to the poorest lover of Casanova, both of whom were named Tunina. Each wine is made to be lived, drunk, and to embody the simplest and highest value of all, sharing. The Yerman style always centers around conviviality, proximity, and communion. To share moments of pleasure with people they love. To pass on their own deep passion for fine wine to every wine lover.
Mhm. Yes. Uh, I want to, Arianna, would you like to read with me these words related to the winery?
Yes,
Yeah?
sure.
Okay. So, would you like to read in English? I read in Italian.
I read in English and you will read in Italian.
Okay.
Wine,
Vino,
winery,
cantina,
vineyard,
vigneto,
vine,
vigna,
red wine,
vino rosso,
white wine,
vino bianco,
prosecco, is always prosecco. Wine route,
strada del vino,
wine tasting,
degustazione di vino.
cheers.
Cin cin, salute. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we're from the wine to the coastline with Grado, which is called the Island of the Sun. It's located on an island between Trieste and Venice. And Grado is a very popular beach resort with a clean, shallow sea and much entertainment for the whole family. It is called the Island of the Sun because the beach faces southwards, and we can say that it's kissed by the sun all day. And you know, the Grado was a poor fisherman's village, but thanks to the excellent quality of its sand, it has become an upscale tourist resort. It is full of green areas, bars, restaurants, playgrounds, a large pine forest, and there is a marvelous long cycle lane. There are small harbors for fishing, motor and sailing boats. There are modern houses and hotels, but also ancient, elegant summer residences belonged to the Austrian upper class of the 19th century. When it was part of the Austrian Empire, the famous emperor Francis Joseph, used to spend his vacation here with his famous wife Elizabeth, known with the nickname of Sissi, the empress, the Austrian empress Sissi. As you can see, Grado is a stripe of land between the Adriatic Sea and the lagoon. The sea air is pure, ventilated climate. There is a high rate of iodine, dense salt content in the water. So the place became famous for its therapeutic qualities, and was opened the first official spa of the empire in 1873. Yeah. Sorry, just a moment. Okay. Grado is not only sun, clean beach, sea and fish restaurants, but also a place full of ancient history. Like the Venetian islands, it is another safe lagoon city, even if it never achieved the incredible destiny of the big Venice. And a few blocks from the seafront, there is the Basilica of Santa Eufemia, which is a gem of the Paleo-Christian time. The original church was built by the refugees fleeing from the mainland from Aquileia in the 5th and 6th century. During the barbarian invasions. So there is no surprise that if you visit this basilica, the Basilica of Santa Eufemia, you can see the floor, the beautiful mosaic floor, which is in a very good condition, even if it is dated back to the late of the 6th century. It's amazing. And so if you go to Grado, don't miss this simple but very impressive church. And it really gives you a sort of feeling and understanding of what early Christianity might have been. It's a place to spend many quiet moments in the small historical center. And the center can be easily visited on foot. Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I want just to talk about the island, the island of Barbana. And when you go by car to Grado, the first sight visitors get of Grado is the shiny the lagoon, no? And as you can see, the small and large islands with the casoni. Casoni are primitive houses of fishermen that feature dome-thatched roofs. Arriving from the mainland, you drive a long way across the lagoon that is divided by a panoramic road. While driving, you can see the island of Barbana. Don't miss a trip among the isles, and in particular this island, the sanctuary, the church of Madonna di Barbana, and it's a very important religious destination. And early summer, usually the first Sunday of July, there is a traditional event, and it's one of the most spectacular celebrations in the region. It is called the Perdon di Barbana, a fascinating parade of boats from Grado to the church, which is on the island. So since centuries, the inhabitants of the island of Grado dedicate the first weekend of July to this feast. As I mentioned before, it's a traditional feast by boat toward the island to thank the Blessed Virgin, to thank the Saint Mary, for a specific reason, that in the 15th century, it is said that the Madonna saved the island by from a terrible plague. The scenery is amazing, as the Barbana Island is characterized by the presence of an old monastery, a small jewel in the middle of the lagoon. So celebrations and events happen all over the historic center of Grado, where local street markets with traditional products, concerts, and food tasting attract visitors from all the region. Okay, so I want just to remind you our last webinar. Don't miss our last meeting. Will be next Tuesday, and it will be about the marvelous city of Trieste and its surroundings. We will talk about the literary cafes, the famous not only Italian but also other European writers who decided to live and spend a long part of their lives in Trieste. And I want just to anticipate with this small description made by Adam Begley. It's a freelance writer of New York famous newspapers, New York Times, The Guardian, and so on. And he wrote in 2011, he wrote, I want just to read a part of it. Trieste is like a modernist novel, complex, layered, ambiguous. It makes you dig for significance. But don't worry, the story has a happy ending. The patient visitor will go away well satisfied and wonderfully well fed, rewarded by an experience unavailable to those looking for a quick and easy foreign fix. Okay, so
thank you, Patrizia.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So thank you for this third leg of our journey into Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, and I'm really looking forward to the fourth leg, to discovering Trieste, which is a very beautiful city, magical and full of history and cultural differences, and so with wonderful writers, very well-known, internationally well-known writers. So looking forward to the fourth event. And now let's see, we have a few questions. The first, no, actually, someone has already answered that question, but I have a couple of questions. Let's see if there is anyone else who would have questions before me. Please feel free to unmute yourselves. So, yes, someone was asking, when is the seminar on Trieste next week? It's on the 29th of June, 29th, again, Tuesday, 7 p.m. on the 29th of June. The Zoom link is the same. I always ask you if it's possible to re-register you again on our website, so that you will be receiving a reminder. All the members of the Dante Society members receive a reminder through our mailing list. And so either you are a member or you re-register so to receive that reminder. I have a question about the vino da meditazione. I don't know how many of you know what we mean with this term, meditation wine, what's involved. And I hope Patrizia can tell us a little bit more about this idea of a wine with which we can meditate on the big issues of life, the kind of in philosophical terms.
Yeah, you are right, because with this expression we mean that there is a philosophical involvement, and in these moments when you taste this special wine, we were talking about the Piccolit, for example, which is called also the King's wine. It's so special that you don't need it can be drank also by itself, I mean. And meditation, because it's a moment where you can reflect on your own life in general, and also it's a magical moment where you can meet and gather with your best friends and relatives, and talk together and be really relaxed. The meditation involves many human aspects in that moment, and it's a great experience if you can find, because you can find this kind of wine. It's not easy, but it's worth to try to research it.
Thank you, Patrizia. And someone was asking, can you repeat what you said about Florence, please? Fatima. And so there will be a writer, Robert, who he's a Canadian, but he studied Italian, and so he can also tell us a little bit more about his involvement with the Italian language. He wrote a book titled Florence and Me, and he will be talking about this book, which recounts his experience as a young student in Florence in the 1960s and how Florence was at the time. And then when he went back later in life, how the city has changed, with mass tourism. So it's a totally different experience from those times when, American tourists were still a minority, and we didn't have any Japanese tourists in Florence in the 1960s. So things have changed. Also, the way Italians behave have changed. So the traditions and rituals have changed. So it will be very interesting to listen to Robert. In that, but also we'll also have other different, very different insights into specific aspects of Italian culture, geography, and nature. So, as I was telling you about the rice fields in the northern part of Italy and the exotic flora in Sicily, so it will be a cultural and also geographical tour of Italy in these kind of encounters where you can choose whether to attend an English presentation or a presentation in Italian if you are fluent enough in Italian, but you don't specifically need to be very advanced in your Italian, because most of the presenters are also teachers of Italian, so they know that they have to speak slowly and to use simple words when speaking Italian, in order for everyone to be able to understand what they are saying. And then we'll have a chat again, to help with, different difficult words or unusual words, unusual turns of phrase, turns of a sentence. So if we don't have any other, yes, Julie, and also let me see if there are any other questions. Angela Rufe is more a comment, I guess. I lived in Duino near Trieste for a few years. Thank you for a little bit of nostalgia. Wonderful presentation, and many thanks to all of who made this session happen. Yes, thank you for all your comments. Very good presentation again from Fatima. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, Patrizia. So a lot of interesting compliments for you, Patrizia.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And it's 8:30, and I think if you want to still enjoy a little bit of this beautiful summer light, I think we all deserve it. And so we'll see you on the 29th of June for this fourth session of our webinar.
Very well.
Bye-bye to everyone.
Thank you.
And I will
Thank
be
you so
stopping
much.
this
Thank you for your
recording.
attention, your time.